The 6th of January 2025. Must remember it's 2025. Yesterday, the 5th, was Sunday, and I was trying to do a video on Sunday morning, and a good video I had lined up, but my phone wouldn't hold the stuff. It said the storage was full. I had deleted everything. I thought I had all done, but yet it wouldn't let me record, so I had to get an expert to clear all the stuff out of it. And one of the problems with all of my devices is they keep stuff I don't want. So if I make a video now, it'll appear back on my storage again in 3 months. But funny enough, the one video I accidentally deleted never appears back. And that's the wedding in Port St. George in Italy in June of 2004. So it doesn't work out too lucky. Anyway, this is the Spud night out. Now, John Murphy's father was some type of a high-ranking guard, as I understand it. I think I knew him all right. And of course, that gave them an automatic right to promotion. For example, if you get a sergeant, let's say, promoted, whose father is a shopkeeper or a garage mechanic or a farmer, like me, and you get another fella whose father is a superintendent in the guards, both have to have a little bit of study and a little bit of effort to get recognised for promotion to inspector, but the one whose the father is high up in the guards has the inside track. So that fella, the one whose father has pull, in other words, the one whose father has pull within the job, his father is a big fella, or his uncle or somebody else is well up in the guards. He can study and make an effort, but he's guaranteed a result. And it's the same as if I put on fertiliser on my farm, a little bit of net nitrate. I know the grass will grow better if I do it properly, and I know I'll have fatter cattle and more money from them. The other guy has no relations, no pull. He can work himself to the bone. He can study big time, but he won't get promoted. So it's like as if you had to pick between two fertilizers. One is genuine net nitrate fertilizer. The other is a placebo or a fake, just a bit of lime. Now, of course, you'd know by the smell of it if you're wised up, but that's the situation. And the advent of Drew Harris and other northern people down here, while I understand the motive for putting northern people in here to make the south look more attractive to unionists in the north, it hasn't fixed this problem, and it never will be fixed, and I make no issue about it. I don't have a grievance. I was one of the youngest sergeants ever promoted. I was on the sergeant's list at 27 years of age. That's remarkably early. And then I didn't stay in my own area, and that was my own fault. I moved into a different division, and therefore I wasn't known there at all, and I had to join the queue. But there were other reasons why I lived that way, and the only difference is a few euros in the pension that I get. Now, it must be said, if I never joined the guards, I could have driven a lorry, I could have worked in some of the industries, I'd still have a contributory pension of some kind, and the state pension, and wouldn't be as well off, definitely not. I have a better pension. But it's all relative too, because I have other income from my farm. So it's all to be made up. And then I have the problem that I'm living where I was stationed, and that's awkward. It's very hard to move. It could cost a fortune to move. You don't get paid once you're retired. Anyway, John Murphy arrived down to my station as a newly promoted superintendent, and I was used to superintendents being a very mixed bag. Some of them was windy as hell. They'd cry. If there was a crime, like somebody robbed a shop, the tears would roll down their cheeks, and if I didn't go in and cry as well, I was considered some kind of I wasn't taking the job seriously. And cracking jokes or anything like that was completely out. Now, you see my breath making steam. That's because it's very cold here in Ireland. It's about 1 degree, and there has been frost overnight, and the frost is pulling the heat out of the air. So it's not very pleasant here. It's cold, and that's the way it is. But I have heat on, but I'm up in a different room. Now, the thing is that He arrived down, he was very pleasant. He used to come down to chat to me, and I liked him. I liked him. I said, well, my idea was he had no right to be promoted over me, but sure, look, he's all right, he'll do. And he was very easy to get on with and very sensible in ways that when you'd want a warrant, he'd give it to you, or if you wanted something signed, he'd give it to you. And I wouldn't, of course, be looking for those things unless it was needed. I saw me looking for warrants to search for stolen goods when I was in hot pursuit, and the superintendent wouldn't get off the phone talking through his hat to somebody else talking crap. And you have another case where a sergeant went in to get a warrant for stolen property, and the superintendent was on the phone for hours talking about his bitch, that he had a bitch, he wanted to breed purebred dogs, but a mongrel got at the bitch and she was pregnant, and he was in a desperate way, and he was crying too. This is the kind of lobos you have. I know another case where a superintendent had to be got on his holidays abroad, somewhere abroad, I don't know, California somewhere, or Australia, so that the local guards could raid a place for drugs. Not that he was dealing in drugs, but he just didn't take the whole thing seriously. And a lot of the high-ranking guards don't know what they're doing. They're dope heads, really. I knew one too that was guaranteed promotion through politics. His family were connected to a famous politician, and the interview board was told this fella has to be promoted. And I went up on the same cycle of promotions, though maybe in a different area. But he came out, I didn't see him, but other people told me, he came out with the face red on him. They give him an unbelievable doing. They ravished him. They showed he was a complete idiot. And that was because they had to promote him, but psychologically they wanted to make him work for it. They wanted to let him know they knew he was a bluffer, a dope. But they had to still recommend him because their jobs were on the line and their promotions were on the line if they didn't. So Murphy is it convivial is the word? I don't like using big words here. We're a countryman's channel. Murphy was all right. He was pleasant, and he used to come down and have the chat, and you could have a nice old chat with him. And he'd take a pint up in the local hotel where he was staying at night. He'd have a pint or two. I think once or twice I happened to go in and have a beer with him. No big gulping down, no excessive drinking, and no whiskey. I'd be taking the whiskey and he wouldn't, but he liked a pint of stout. So that's all I knew. And I retired, and they had a bit of an old send-off for me, and I think he spoke well at it, and everything was happy enough. Then, years later, I discovered they had him caught for drug dealing and all of the rest, and all the rest is history. So, I'll just read a wee bit out of the Sunday World. The Sunday World, we're going high, we're going top shelf here in the media. So, I'll read it here, and here is his picture here. He's in prison, 6 years he got. Drug dealer ex-guard John Murphy is booted out of Cushy Open Prison after claims he went to pub while he was on compassionate release. So apparently he got compassionate relief and he went to a pub. How did anyone know he went into a pub? I wouldn't tell on myself. God, if you're in for a long time. But anyway, this is the story. We'll read it here, what it says. Disgraced ex-guard the Superintendent John Spud Murphy has been booted out of Shelton Abbey Open Prison after it was claimed he had been socialising in a pub while on compassionate leave from prison. The Sunday World understands Murphy was given a 24-hour period of temporary release from the Arklow Open Prison on early prior Christmas to visit a family member. The 65-year-old returned to prison as scheduled, but it claimed a report was subsequently made to authorities that he had been seen socialising in a pub in North Dublin. Hadn't someone very little to do? Someone very little to do. Under the terms of which temporary release is granted, prisoners are prohibited from consuming alcohol or attending at licensed premises. 2 days after his return to the lockup, Murphy was informed he had been returned to the Midlands prison. That must be Portlaoise, I'd say, to the Midlands prison. That's what they probably call it now. He has not been subjected to P19 disciplinary proceedings following his return to prison. The former top cop is more than halfway through his 6.5-year sentence after pleading guilty to possession of 260,000 worth of cannabis in court in 2022. Now, I have been castigated castigated, not castrated. People get confused. Castigated or criticised for being against drugs. I'm against drugs, full stop. They dope people out. When people get to my age, even though they took them in their 20s, they're half dopes. You can't tell them about last Thursday. They say, well, when was that? And you have to say it was after Wednesday. Cannabis dulls the brain. It dopes them a bit. Not as much as other drugs. He had only been moved to the open prison from the Midlands prison in September and is due for release in 2026. The move to an open prison in Wicklow would have allowed Murphy to work outside the community if he has deemed suitable. To work outside in the community. Yeah, if he had to keep his nose clean, he'd have maybe got early release to do community work. He wouldn't be bad at community work. I'd say that lad would work in an old people's home. He wouldn't be a bad fella, you know. He's not a bad fella. I have to say that about him on a personal basis. At Shelton Abbey, he joined a number of other high-profile prisoners who are working towards their eventual release. These include gangland inmates such as Brian Meehan. I don't know much about that fella. I used to know all about these criminals. I just when I retired, I just cut connection. I just left. The only member of the Gilligan gang convicted over the Veronica murder journalist. Veronica murder was killed by villains, by criminals, but there was equal criminality by the Irish government and Irish voters. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael voters voted to kill Veronica Murphy because they wouldn't back fairness and good policing. They always promoted dopes to the high ranks. Anyway, that's my little rant. That's the fact of the matter. Everyone in Ireland who voted Fianna Fáil, you voted for criminals in the last election. And for Fine Gael, you voted for a worse type of a criminal. Like it or not. You can't get at me. One of the pleasures and the thrills I get out of life is putting it up to the establishment to get me. They'll get it very hard. Anyway, so at Shelton Abbey, he's joined by high-profile prisoners who are working towards their eventual release. These include gangland Brian Meehan of the Gilligan gang. Poor Veronica. God be good to her. God be good to her. Another is Limerick gangster Christopher Smokey Costello, serving life for the murder of rival gang boss Kieran Kane in 2003, who was transferred there last May. Murphy's transfer to the open prison came despite his previous arrest. Murphy's previous arrest at the Midlands prison by Gardaí investigating suspected links between officers and the Hutch criminal gang. So what this is saying here is Murphy's transfer to the open prison came despite his previous arrest at the Midlands prison. So you can be arrested in a prison. I arrested people in prisons myself. You can arrest them and take them out to a Garda station and return them to the prison under the 1984, Section 4 of the Criminal Justice Act 1984. By Gardaí investigating suspected links between officers. That must be between Garda officers, isn't it? And the Hutch organised crime gang. So there must be, they must have suspected that Spud Murphy was involved in with these gangs. I think that's the allegation. So that was a dirty thing to be doing. He had a decent pension. He must have had huge expenses. What was he doing? Does anyone want to print? Be very careful what you say, because I don't want my channel or any of my viewers to be sued. We have enough information here anyway. In January 2023, he was taken from his cell to a Dublin Garda station to face questioning by officers with the National Bureau of Criminal Investigation. And I back that. If he was at that, they were right to do it. That's a good sign of the Gardaí that they have done that. In October 22, it was heard during Murphy's sentencing hearing that he owed €855,000. 8,055. That's 0.85 of a million euros, due to poor business decisions made in the 10 years after he retired from the force. Should be watching my channel on investments. Counsel said that Murphy had whatever the opposite of the Midas touch is. Yeah. Yeah, the opposite of the Midas touch. Is there any name for that? Well said. And that any investigation he made went down the drain. Any investments he made went down the drain. Should have bought a few old cattle. Oh man, do you have viewed a couple of cows? You look at the farmers with cows. You look at the retired Gardaí who become farmers with cows. They're queer smart fellas, I'm telling you. I'm frozen here, folks. It's awful going. Once one of his bad decisions was a €300,000 investment in taxi licenses, which he lost when the industry was deregulated. Yeah, you see, you had to buy taxi licenses at one stage. But that's before he retired, I'd say. It was added that he was consuming large amounts of booze every day for as long as anyone could remember. I didn't notice that about him now. I didn't notice that, but that's what they're saying anyway, that he was a kind of a functional alcoholic. Oh, there was a few of them. I knew a superintendent came down from Dublin. He was in one of them squads. And he was very proud kind of a fella. And he was from down the country. And there were a couple of detectives there, and they were very family-orientated fellas, west of Ireland. You know, the ordinary, straightforward fellas, you know. And they'd be all right with the like of me. I could get the best out of them. They'd do what I asked them, and you could tell them what to do and they'd do it right. But anyway, this fella arrived down and he was on the porter every day, 8, 9, 10 pints. He'd arrive into the station, he'd sign the bit of post, and he'd get the detectives, and he loved detectives, and he'd land them out to pubs and dose them full of beer and nearly broke them buying them porter. And then he'd try and give them sub-allowance and subsistence allowance, and they didn't really earn it. And they were were they glad to see the end of him. He's gone and retired, and he left this world long ago. He was added to the it was added that he was consuming large amounts of booze every day for as long as anyone could remember, and was a functional alcoholic. He said his drinking had clouded his judgment and brought him to this sorry pass. Maybe so. I never drink in the daytime. Don't like it. I have a drink problem. I admit it. I don't like it. Sometimes I love a half one. Sometimes. I don't like it in the daytime. I take it maybe a wee drop at night to warm the blood before going to bed, but that's my problem. I don't like the damn thing most of the time. People say, would you take a wee? I don't feel like it, you know. And a lot of my close relations and offspring are in the same thing. I don't feel like it, you know. That's a great sign. When you see a person that doesn't want to drink spirits, it's a good sign. And even beer, I haven't drank. I drank a glass of stout before Christmas. I do take an odd glass. I take a Smithwick's. I have bottles of Bass outside there in the store, and I haven't opened it. I opened one over since a week before Christmas. I have 2 bottles of what do you call them, Miller down there, and they're laying down there, and they'll eventually be broken. So that's my problem. I don't like it too well. But maybe it's just as well. Someone said to a fella, do you drink a lot? And he was going like this with his whiskey. And, no, he says, I spill most of it. I know the amount jokes are corny. I don't care whether they are or not. Anyway, the trial judge said that Murphy was holding the drugs for the same type of financial rewards, for some type of financial rewards in order to alleviate his debts, but that he should have known better. Yeah, you see, the drink had affected him, no doubt about it. It's a terror like that drink can do that to you. I know some people it destroyed. I just don't know. I don't know. And I mean, he's suffered. If I was in jail, I'd ask for an old bottle of Club Orange. I wouldn't care. And I'd like an odd mug of tea. If I got a wee drop of tea on the QT extra, that'd be a big thing. And get the smartphone for the internet, I'd survive in it. But you see, if you're addicted to bloody drink, every day you have a craving. And when he got out, he went for one quick immediately, you see. Oh, that's a cursed thing. A Garda witness gave evidence of how they searched his home in Clontarf. Imagine a nice home in Clontarf in 2021. 2021, 2021. During the search, they found 8 bags of cannabis herb in a bag in the walk-in wardrobe of an upstairs bedroom. So that's basically it all. Enough said anyway. That's there on that. That's a guard that went crooked and drink and all of the rest of it. Look at, I say no more, but I will say this. When he got promoted out of Dublin, he was promoted to fill vacancies deliberately created in the country. Good policemen and women in Longford Westmeath, in Cavan Monaghan, in Loudmead, in Roscommon, in Donegal, in Mayo, in Laois Offaly, in not so much Tipperary, maybe in Wexford, but mainly in the border, where there is a lot of trouble and a lot of violence. Good policemen were passed over in the promotion system, except for they were like your man that was whose relative was connected with a big politician. They were promoted, and some of them were promoted from Dublin and Cork and sent up to these counties to fill the vacancies that should have been filled by Gardaí there. So no matter how hard the Garda worked in Louth, in Monaghan, in Cavan, in Sligo Leitrim or Donegal, in Roscommon and Longford Westmeath, and that's just a few, no matter how clever they were blocked from promotion because the vacancies were kept open for the surplus of Dublin promotees. In order to get promoted in the Guards, you have to be seen. In Cavan Monaghan Division, if you're outside, if you're stationed in any station outside Century Homes on the Clonus Road, or outside Castle Shane or Clontibbert on the Dublin Road, and even outside the Ballybay Road, not even in Ballybay, they don't even know you. If they don't see you, you don't exist, no matter what you do. In Louth, it's the same. Loudmeath. If you're over in Nobber or you're over in a station like Crossakeel, there's none there now, I know that, or RD, and you're doing a wonderful job and you have great CV and all, they don't want to know you. The chief superintendent can only see what he sees outside the window. And in Dublin Garda headquarters, all of the ones running round being seen by the officers in the canteen, and mind you, you'd need to be well shielded to eat in the canteen. The food in it is just the cheapest fish and chips, and that's no reflection on the people who run the canteen in Garda headquarters. I went up one time when I was still in the job, and I said to the lady, why don't you have good food here, like a bit of roast beef or a wee bit of fish or something nice and a few potatoes? She says, we tried that and the guards didn't want it. They wouldn't buy it. If they didn't get chips and old grazy burgers and sausages and old junk food, they wouldn't eat it at all. It's the guards had it that way. It wasn't the canteen. She was a good woman. So don't let's get that wrong. And if you're going to headquarters and you're working at headquarters, the food would poison you because they won't pay for anything that's decent. It's not that the canteen wouldn't give it out. They won't pay for anything that's decent. And you needn't be suing me to say I denigrated the canteen. It's not the canteen itself. The canteen has no option because the guards will not buy anything, only junk food. And that includes the high-ranking officers as well. Chips, beans, sausages. And it's swimming, and the gravy lifting the beans up and them floating like boats around the gravy on the plate. Anyway, the thing about it is, this is what happened. There were several good policemen forced to retire without promotion because the like of John Murphy got preference. There was a sergeant in charge in Drogheda one time. I knew him and he had been doing a wonderful job. I'd do you good to go into a station, and it was humming with activity, and I had reasons to deal with him. And he was a great man, and he was studying around my time, and we'd compare notes and I'd help him and he'd help me, but he never got promoted. He went up several times. No way. They're a crowd of bastards. That's what they are. And they can come after me any way they like. Interview me any way you like. They wouldn't give fair play to anyone. And any youngster now joining the Gardaí should take into account what I am saying. If you join and you want to just be a Garda or maybe a sergeant, you'd be all right. There's several guards doing all right. You'll be all right. I reckon a teacher of school would be better because you don't have to move away from home. But if you want any fairness or get promoted or get involved in crime investigation, it's a funny setup. If you're in the murder squad, when I was in the guards, if you weren't prepared to gulp a full bottle of whiskey every night or vodka with the boys coming round, they didn't want you. It was sickening dose. You'd be expected to go in there and buy them drink when they'd be away over the country. Sometimes they'd want to lick me with them because I'd know somebody or other. This guy got promoted, and look how he turned out. Somebody marked him down and said he's fit to be a superintendent in Dublin and down the country. And somebody come along and marked it. Val Martin, that's me, wasn't fit to be a superintendent, because I always push out the boat and check these things out. And they said no. And I'd never have been involved in drugs. I was a straight officer, and I had a good head on me, but no way. And that's not because Commissioner Drew Harris is corrupt, or his predecessors were corrupt, although some of them are strange. It's because the Irish people are corrupt. They're in praying in the craw thumping. They'd hang you out to dry. They'll never change. Fianna Fáil will never change, and Fine Gael will never change. And the people will never change. It will only happen from outside. Is that fair enough? We'll see you back. Should let him out to hell and let him drink blue in the face. I don't know, is his pension gone? I don't know. I don't think it is. I don't know. Anyway, happy year, John. I got on very well. He was the best of a fella to go somewhere with. I think we went to a funeral or something. He wasn't the best of a lad. And he wasn't mean or anything like that. That's it. That's my say. And someone said my videos are entertaining. Yeah. I made a complaint against the chief superintendent one time for a serious attack on me and my integrity, and the headquarters sent it back to tell me to go into him and deal with it myself. What a shower of villains they were. Oh, they were some rascals. But the ordinary Garda, the ordinary sergeant you're dealing with, is not like that. None of the people I was serving with were corrupt. I never seen anyone doing anything corrupt of the Garda rank, of the sergeant rank, and indeed most inspectors. The problem with them, a lot of them, they were whingers. They never quit, whingers. And they were as greedy as you get for promotion, and they'd walk on you for promotion. And when you stand up for yourself with the union and tell them where to get off, they'd hate you, and it'd be vindictive hate. It'd boil up in them. And then they got to be up high, and they were able to appoint their successors who were like themselves. It's a merry-go-round. I'd say it's the same in the health service. So I'd say it's more or less the same in the teaching profession as well. I don't know. Anyway, folks, that's it on 28 minutes. John Murphy, the Spud. Well, the Spud comes from the fact that in Ireland, Spud means Murphy. They used to say, will you have a Murphy for your dinner, a Spud, a potato. It's just a name given to it down in Cork. We'll see you back soon. Bye-bye.